Welcome back to the Sustainable Creator Podcast. I'm Joe.
I'm Lyndon.
And we are your hosts. We are also business coaches for creative service providers who also run a membership. And today, you guys get to hear the down low on some pretty major business changes that we are making. And if you have been paying attention to any of the Easter eggs that I have been dropping on socials all week, you might have some ideas, especially if you saw the announcement post. And spoiler alert, if you didn't, I'm just going to tell you now, we renamed our membership. And that's what today's episode is going to be. We're going to walk you through why, where we started, what's happening next, and just all the nitty gritty details that led us to making such a big decision like this. But that's the spoiler alert. We have renamed our membership, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Before we get into what we renamed it, I think it's helpful to go back. We've been on this journey. We talk about our membership ourselves a lot, but I'm guessing you don't actually know most of this story. And so we wanted to kind of give you a snapshot of the last 18-ish months of how did we get here? Because it's interesting looking backwards, connecting the dots of like, what were the major points in this story that really got us here? Mm-hmm. And so if I start early 2025, we shut down our photo business. We fully committed to coaching. And within a couple of months, one of the things that we started noticing is a lot of our coaching clients had similar problems they were working on. And there was a lot of value of connecting them. And after we connected a couple of them one-on-one, we were like, what if we just kind of put them together? And we informally started a group chat called Coaching Crew that also then turned into, I think we did monthly calls. And there was so many interesting like side tangents that came from that we saw our coaching clients applying in their own business that they learned from their peers. Mm-hmm. And that was really like the first entry point for us of like, what would it look like if we did more of like a one-to-many offer instead of just the standard coaching one-on-one? And I think that brings us into the second phase of this.
Yeah. So summer of 2025, about a year ago now, we started doing group coffee chats. And the reason behind that was because we were seeing across the board entrepreneurs were lonely as ever. And we, again, because we were having multiple conversations across the board with a lot of business owners, we were hearing a lot of the same frustrations and friction points and things that they were navigating, feeling like they were the only ones. And we knew that they weren't. But because of some of the topics that were coming up, they were not the type of things that you want to talk about out loud for the masses, right? Like these are private conversations that sometimes you need to navigate before you speak about them with trusted people. And so we were honored and grateful enough to be people that were included in some of these conversations and realized we wanted to bring people together so that they did feel less alone. And we started organizing these weekly coffee chats where we would invite a handful of people to come. We had a structure to it. So there was a flow to the calls. It wasn't like you hop on and you're just like, you have awkward silences. That's not how we operate. And so we had a structure to them. And we would lead out these calls, facilitate the conversation. They were a hit. People were really grateful for them. And that snowballed into what was next.
I think actually before we get to what was next, one of the interesting signs that we saw that was really working is the first one, we actually reached out to people like, hey, would you like to come to a group coffee chat? And then kind of after that, like when we would post about them, other people would ask to come to them. And it was largely at least a couple people every week. Like we didn't even have to invite them. They were just like, can I come to the next one? And we started seeing this as like people are looking for rooms like this.
To be fair, at the beginning, we did give a call to action for anyone who was interested. They could raise their hand. So we did train that behavior of sort. But then, yes, it eventually became like of their own volition. They were raising their hand without us, motivating them to, for lack of a better word.
And the follow-up question that we got from people is, cool, I came to one of these. Can I come to another one? Mm-hmm. And structurally, how we were thinking about it is like there was a lot of people that we wanted to have these with. And so we couldn't talk to the same people every week. And so that became a separate thing of like we would do group coffee chats with new people. And we created peer masterminds where it was just like we invited select people that we thought were a great fit into that room where it was we had a standing weekly call on Fridays where people would show up consistently and fairly universally across the board. Like by the time we got up to like 20-ish people on that list, we consistently had almost like 60-70% of them were showing up every single week. And this is busy people that are running successful businesses that are also in other memberships and going to other calls. And they were giving up an hour of their week every week to come and hang out with us. And that was such an interesting thing for me because I was like, everyone complains about having no capacity, and yet everybody makes time for this.
Yeah, we were kind of like, why are y'all here? Like, why do you keep coming back?
For anyone there,
And
we love you truly, and
it
we appreciate you being there. It was confusing.
no, but like in the best way. Like it just was a responsibility that we did not want to take lightly, and it just took on a life of its own. And clearly, we saw there was so much evidence that there was a need for this. And as it grew, we started to hear more that people wanted and see through the conversations that were happening that there was way more that we wanted to be able to offer them and create for them. And so we started to talk behind the scenes about what would this look like if it was an actual membership? What would the format grow into? And that's when the break room was born. And so this is now in October of 2025. So at the time of this recording, it's been about 10 months since we officially launched the break room as a membership. It was created for creative service providers. It was a room for people to be able to ask questions that they did not feel comfortable talking about publicly. Again, some of these sensitive situations that sometimes you need to navigate in trusted circles. But it was also a space where people wanted to actively grow and implement in their business. Like these are action takers. They dream big and they work hard and they are not afraid of that. Like that is deep within their bones and something that excites them and lights them up. And being in a space with other people who share those same values and that same drive and excitement, that is a really good feeling that can quite frankly change the trajectory of your business. There's a lot of power in that. And so it was exciting to be able to officially launch it into the world. I think like the first month we had at least 10 people sign up, which that in itself was like, oh my word, like that's incredible. Again, it was a big honor to just lead out in that space. And over the past 10 months, it has just evolved and grown, and we have refined a lot, which brings us to now. Like fast forward to this present moment in time, we have gone through a lot of iterations of the membership that we launched, formerly known as the Break Room. And we realized that because of what we have refined and how clear we are now on what we want this space to be about and who benefits the most from being inside and just like the overall culture that we want to create and foster, there was a pretty big mismatch in the value positioning that was happening in our branding and in the name.
So I do want to tell a little bit of a backstory here
Yeah, go for it.
because the break room, we chose a name with the best of intentions. We genuinely like the story behind it, which I will tell you in a second. But one of the things that we fairly quickly realized is we always had to tell the story. It wasn't intuitive for people why we called it that, and it didn't necessarily at face value match what was inside of the room. And
Yeah.
so when I think about the story, and part of this is also just what I am learning about how we went about naming this, is I pushed for a personal story that made sense to me that doesn't necessarily make sense to our audience. And for me, coming from a corporate background, when I think about my career before I joined Joe, the thing that helped me progress the most is when I got to know people informally, which was away from my desk, not on customer calls, not on meetings. It was when I went to the break room where I could ask someone like, hey, this is what I'm going through. Like, I need help with this. Do you have any advice here? Or it was like, hey, can I pick your brain? Yeah, I'll meet you over in the break room. And, or that's where we went for lunch and learns, or that's where a lot of connection happened. And that is where my career progressed the fastest, was in that break room. But there's also a lot of like the flip side where it has the word break in it. And you can't overcome the hurdle of like what the words are, even if there's meaning behind those words.
Yep. So if I'm being completely honest, I have known for a minute that the name was going to need to change. I have pretty strong intuition, and that's something that I have had to learn and own for myself over the years. And it's something that I'm actively learning to lean into even more because my instincts are often pretty close, if not spot on. And so a few weeks ago, a couple weeks ago, Lyndon one morning was like, I am wondering if we need to change the name of the membership. I'm wondering if the break room is not a good fit anymore. And immediately I was like, no, it's not. We need to change it.
I think I think we had both been resisting having the conversation for a while because of how much work goes into repositioning.
Yeah, but we were already in the middle of a rebrand. So actively up leveling, elevating our own branding, and things are in the works on the back end for an updated website, all that good stuff. And so it is wild. I just have to say this for a second before we keep going. Like, it is wild to me the rate at which we have grown over the past year and a half alone. Like, we are bullish on making changes when changes need to be made and actively experimenting and iterating and evolving. For years, I have told people that as humans, we're going to evolve. So why would your business not? Like, your business is going to evolve. Your interests will, your offers will. And so when you embrace that, that is when so much of the beauty and joy happens. But oftentimes, we tend to be resistant to change. Like, that is just in our human nature. We don't like change, and so we avoid it at all costs because it's new. And so we were both experiencing a little bit of that, even as people who actively iterate and make changes in our business. Like, we still run into that resistance too. But because we were on the back end already going through the process of working on branding and website and things like that, when Lyndon brought this comment up, the both of us were like, well, if we're going to, now is the time. It's now, or we don't want to go through this again later. Like, let's just do it now if we're going to. So we both were agreed on, like, okay, we're pretty sure this needs to happen. But we did happen to have a scheduled call with some of our members that afternoon. And so we decided to come to the call and ask them a market research question and just verify this, because we have had members who have been in this space from day one. They have seen all of the evolutions it has gone through to get to this point where it feels really strong and really good, the direction that we are going. And when we posed the question and said, hey, we are wondering if we need to change the name, and this is why, but we want to just gut check this with you guys first. Across the board, unanimously, every single person on that call was like, no, you need to change the name. Like, you're spot on. You're right. It needs to change. And I have a couple of like specific examples I'll tell you, but you can share your
I was
going
to pull a specific example.
Oh, no, you go for it.
I think one of the ones that stood out to me is one of the things I heard in that conversation was, I would have signed up earlier if I didn't have to wrap my brain around the name. Paraphrased, it wasn't necessarily those exact words, but that's how I heard it. It was like they didn't necessarily see the value because they stopped at the name, and they didn't take enough depth of looking into it just because they didn't feel the need to.
Well, it also, like, part of their point too was the branding was really playful and fun and felt casual, and I completely agree. And that was kind of the vibe when we started, like that fit the first version of this. But as you'll hear, like, it no longer fits where we're going. And so it was honestly really validating for me to hear that, of like, okay, great. That's all I need to hear to know that we need to be all systems go, because I don't want there to be confusion. I want the value to be portrayed in our branding and in the name and how we talk about it and all of that. And we could both see for a while now that the experience our members were having inside was way different than people's assumptions about what they were getting before they joined. Oh. And so we were having a lot of conversations with people where they would either just have completely different assumptions about what the membership was or who it was for, or they were a little resistant to joining, and then they would get in and they were some of the most active members. They got so much out of it. Their opinion about the space completely changed because their experience was so different than their assumptions going in.
I think one of my favorite things is we somewhat informally do a like 5 or 7 day check-in once people sign up of like, hey, what's your experience been like? How's it going? Do you have questions? And almost universally, people are like, just coming to one call was so
Mm,
valuable and way better than I expected. And that, A, we love that. That's so nice. We appreciate that. But also, we're not necessarily showing that value outside. And so, how do we start matching the experience people are having inside to what people see outside?
I just also want to pause here for a second and say that like I know I don't know how it sounds to like hear that like we're hearing from multiple people of like this space is not like others and I get so much out of it, or like this is not us just trying to brag about ourselves. This is it's just I don't know. It's something I'm really grateful for that neither of us fully expected to even be in a place to lead or receive statements like that. But a lot of work has also come into making that a reality.
Yeah, I think I want to fill in some gaps here. Like this
Yeah.
wasn't accidental.
Yeah.
We launched in
Okay.
October, and for the first 5 months, we changed probably like 20% of what was inside of Circle online almost every month. We did
Yeah.
month end surveys. We asked a bunch of questions. I sat on calls with our members of like, what would be improved here? And we fairly ruthlessly killed things that weren't working, and we brought in new things based on what we were hearing needs. And we changed the formats of our calls. We standardized processes so that it would work. And it feels like it just happened, or that experience,
Yeah.
but we were very intentional of like, we are going to make this 1% better every week.
Yeah.
And 10 weeks in, we're at like 40 some weeks, and that 1% has compounded to get us to where we are today.
Yeah. I am all for people bragging about what they offer, but I just don't want it to come across as we're tooting our own horn or trying to make ourselves sound good. Like, we both know what it feels like to be in rooms where it's just not the best experience. And so we worked really hard to build a space that, as much as we can, it is a place that is very growth oriented. It is built on reciprocity and taking action and active participation. Like, yes, to Lyndon's point, like we paid a lot of attention to what members were asking for and we had those conversations. Some of them were not easy, but it's because we care so much about the value and experience that our members are getting because we know how it feels to be on the other side. And I don't know, it's just something we really care about. So, not to get us too off track, but it just felt like that was worth sharing for a quick second.
And if we reel ourselves back in,
Yeah.
we vetted that our assumption was correct, and then
Mm-hmm.
we embarked on we should find a new name.
Yeah, so after that, it was okay. I am writing all kinds of idea names or name ideas in my notebook. I mean, I wrote down so many ideas. I used our big whiteboard to brainstorm. We asked a couple of people for ideas of their own, members. We asked, what do you think of when you're in this space? What are some words that come to mind? What do you feel? What is something you identify with? All those good questions. And spent a couple of weeks really just thinking about options. And there were a few options that when we thought of them, I was like, that's it. And I would get so excited. And then we would check and it was not available, or there was something that was too close to it, or whatever it was. And so it felt like we kept going back to square one to me. But eventually we landed on something I'm really, really happy about.
I think if we, in the intro, you heard we're left brain, right brain. If we think about Lyndon as the left brain and wants to put a process to this, early on in this is I sat us down and talked about like what needs to be true for this to be a good name for us. And we kind of whittled it down to 5-ish things. And so when you heard her say we checked against, it was one of the criteria for that was it was not taken and it wasn't trademarked. The other ones that we thought about here is it elevated? Because we are in the process of leveling up. And so we
Mm-hmm.
wanted it to feel elevated. There was not taken or trademarked. It matches what we are building intuitively. Like we talked about that break room thing of like intuitively, it doesn't say growing. Is it memorable? Is this something that we can talk to someone at an event and then they can go home and type it into Google or Instagram because it's memorable enough that it contextually makes sense in what we're talking about? And the last one is it possible to rank in SEO?
I'm going to add one more though. Do you have more on the SEO point?
Uh, it's not a primary objective, but we also don't want to name it something that is literally impossible in the future to ever rank on. And so we were looking, there was at least an opportunity to rank on it.
Yeah. We also wanted it to be easy to understand. So to Lyndon's point earlier, on any time that we would tell people that our membership was called the Break Room, we always had to tell the story behind it. And that, while is really powerful to have stories that help people understand and get what you're building, we really wanted a name that was easy to understand and communicated that value immediately. So maybe this ties into point number 3, but that was a really big one here too.
And then I think the last bit is like we also asked our peers and people that are experts. Mm-hmm. And if you've been with us for a while, on episode 5, we interviewed Becky, and she is our go-to like membership girl. And we love how she thinks.
She's
and so
amazing.
I just asked her of like, how would you approach this if you were doing this? And one of the things that she came back with is the prompt I would give you guys is, for the people in your membership, what do they have in common? Or another way to think about is, what would they wear on a t-shirt?
And how do they identify? Like, what is that identity piece to it? Which that was something I had been mulling around for the entire duration of ideating on names as well. It was like, I know the identity piece is important because we want this space to be more than just us. You know, like the name is about the collective, not just the founders for us in this instance. And so we really wanted it to communicate that. And so again, it was really validating. I loved her t-shirt prompt because that helped me too.
Also something that was missing with the break room. Because like the closest I ever got was they're the breakers, which feels like spring breakers, and that's not the vibe we were going for.
And like, I don't know how to surf. It'd be cool to learn, but again, not.
So it was something that was missing, and so like when she said it, I was like, oh, this totally makes sense, and we should add that to our criteria.
So without further ado, are you guys ready to hear what the new name is moving forward? Because I think we've given enough backstory at this point that you guys can just know. So we have a new name. We've officially checked all the boxes that we were looking for. It checks them all. I am so, so excited. If you have already seen the announcement post on socials, you know this already. But if you have not, the new name for our membership is Creative Maven Society. And the reason behind that is this is a group that is made up of creatives. It is specifically for creative service providers. The word Maven translates to trusted expert. And that's what we want this room to be filled with. Like, this is a room filled with creatives who are experts in their respective fields. And there's so much power in that. And society is pretty straightforward. I don't need to explain that one. But it really sums up what we are building, who it's for. It's easy to understand. And of course, if people want to know more, then they can reach out or fill out the application, read the sales page, all that good stuff. Like, we'll have ways for them to get more information, but it's enough to pique their interest and help people know, like, is this something that sounds like me that I want to know more about before moving forward or not? And that feels really, really good. It also feels a bit more high level, which was really important to me because, again, that is what we're building. Like, this is not a space to take a break. This is a space to be able to implement and integrate new ways of thinking in your business so that you can build the best business ever. One that is ideally going to, I would love it if it lives beyond you. Like, that's a very personal decision that is up to you, but you get the idea. Like, this is bigger than just an idea. This is an idea that you implement and take action on. And it comes to life, and you're going to have the resources and the coaches in your corner and the peers that are trusted that will support you through bringing those big ideas to life. And that excites the heck out of me. So
what's changing?
All right. Well, if you have been paying attention on socials, you already know this. Starting August 1st, the price is increasing to $250 a month. If you're listening to this the day that it that it airs, that means that you can still get in at the founder's rate of 97 a month. So you will get access to some new features that are added already inside of Creative Maven Society, including there's a new section called Ask a Coach. I'm going to let Lyndon explain this one because you're really good at explaining it.
So part of what we have noticed over the 10 months of experimenting that we've done, and we have been paying attention to what's happening to our members, and the people that see the biggest results are the ones that we had the most contact with. And so as we think about like, we are coaches, how do we bring that energy into the room? And yes, we had hot seat calls. We still have hot seat calls. We have masterminds every week where we will kind of MC the calls. But for people that just want to like, I'm not looking for like a one-on-one coaching relationship. I'm not in that place right now, but it would be really helpful to be able to ask like this specific question to a coach. That is what this space is. Like, if you have a tightly constrained, I just need help on this thing, or I need to be pointed in a direction, or given a lesson inside of business school that has one of your templates or workbooks, like this is a place that you can do that. And part of us increasing the price of Creative Maven Society is our ability to now have a higher touch with all of our members as we go from this is just a community for creative service providers to this is a coaching membership for creative service providers.
Right.
And so right now that's asking us as a coach, as we think about, Joelle said, building something that's possibly bigger than us. That could be co-coaches in the future. That could be a way of giving support to more people as we grow and make this a scalable thing, because just like we're wanting all of you to grow and scale, we're also wanting us to grow and scale.
Yeah, this is definitely not something that is in the works right now. No. So I just want to put a big disclaimer on that. Like we're not even close to making that something that we're considering bringing to the forefront, but it gives you an idea of the direction that we're going. And one of the most popular calls that we have inside of the membership is our hot seat coaching calls. And so the Ask a Coach section is really just an extension of that, because we saw how many members were getting so much value out of those calls and how they would come back every single time and implement right away. And so it's a great space to be able to get extra support on the business decisions and things that you are implementing from two coaches in your corner. Okay, another thing is starting in August, any new members will get a business audit as part of their onboarding call. So we already do onboarding calls with members to get them set up inside of Circle, which is the platform that we host our membership on, get to know them more on a human level, make sure that we know how to best support them in the space, all that good stuff. We're going to take it a step further starting in August for new members and do a business audit, which is going to allow us to be able to support new members even more in their business. And so if you want more information on what that looks like, feel free to just send us a DM on Instagram and we can talk more about that.
And the last thing, as of this list that we have written for notes, that's changing on day one once we do this price change, is going to applications. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things that we realize is the value of the room is also the people in the room. And the closer that we can make this specific to people with similar dreams and similar businesses, mm-hmm. the better everyone has an experience. And the classic saying, rising tide raises all boats. And if everyone has close enough context, you can learn so much from someone else that runs a similar business to you. And so that's application, so that we can vet the room and make sure that everyone also fits well inside of the core principles that our membership is based on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the questions that we get asked the most is, what are your plans for growing this space? And I think that's worth just touching on for a quick minute, because we're not actively trying to grow a ton in a short span of time. We want to intentionally grow. So that's not to say that we don't want to hit a large amount of members down the road, but we're not trying to hit 200 in the next 2 months. Like that's not what we're
Yeah,
aiming
our model
for.
doesn't feel like
And
that.
so part of like applications is again to make sure that we're bringing in the right people. This also makes sure that it's the right space for you too and what you're looking for because it goes both ways. But for anyone who is wondering, like right now we're sitting at around 20 plus members, all creative service providers. There's a good variety, which makes it really fun for the conversations that happen inside of this space because you get multiple perspectives from different backgrounds and experiences. Some people have teams, others don't, or other people are doing certain marketing channels and other people are doing others, or like there's always new things that you learn from people inside of this space that you can apply to your business if you want, make your own, whatever the case. And having for now a smaller group makes it really impactful and personalized. And as we grow, like we do have things in mind to continue to support that. So there's still intentionality in the conversations that happen and people aren't getting lost in the noise. You know, like we care about active participation. We want you to be connected with other members really intentionally. And so just for anyone who is wondering about that, like that's our answer on growth.
Which kind of brings us to, as we're in this new era, new name, new price point, new deliverables that are somewhat included. Most of them are almost exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
What are the most common crossroads for people that would be a great fit for joining this membership?
So, the Creative Maven Society is a great space if you are launching new offers or building out your offer ecosystem. Maybe your old way of selling is no longer working and you need a new selling process. You want to learn some ideas on that. Maybe you've hit a glass ceiling and there's just no more hours in a week to keep growing your business, and your business model needs to change so that you can keep growing accordingly. Those are just a few examples of what would make this a really great space for you. This is for creative service providers who are actively growing and building businesses that they want to take to the next level. And whatever that means for you, if you are hungry to learn and put in the work and you are someone who is of a giving nature, like you're generous, you're growth oriented, this is a fantastic space for you.
If I was to summarize this down of like what it looks like right now inside of Creative Maven Society, we think about this as three main pillars. There's what we call coaching light, or like it's not necessarily one-on-one, but it has ask the coach space. There's 2 hot seat calls per month. There's the education pillar. We have business school, which is basically we take the concepts, frameworks, workbooks that we use in one-on-one coaching, and they're put into a resource library for you to pull from when you want to use that. And then there's also monthly masterclasses that we bring in guest experts to talk about the topics that we hear the most questions on. And the third part is peer support. You're in a room of your peers that run very similar businesses to you that you can ask questions. And so there's weekly masterminds that you get on those calls. And then there's also the online space where you can put in questions, you can share your wins, you can find resources and all of those things inside of Circle. And so we think about those 3 main pillars as what makes up your experience inside of Creative Maven Society: coaching, education, and peer support.
Yeah, it's honestly an incredible space. I am so grateful for everyone who has come through the membership in every form it has been from day one. Thank you to each one of you who has been a part of this journey in whatever way. Like, it means the world to us that you invested in us and this journey. Thank you. You helped us get to this point, and we appreciate that so much. So the thing I keep coming back to is that the break room, I am so grateful for that the origin story and like how it started. And I know that some of you love the name as well. And I will always be grateful for that first version of it. But what I keep coming back to is the break room got us here, but it won't get us to where we're going. The Creative Maven Society will definitely get us to where we want to ultimately be as a group. And I am so freaking excited for where we are going. We would love to have you along for the ride. If you are interested in learning more about Creative Maven Society, feel free to send us a DM on Instagram at Joe and Linden. or if you're ready to go ahead and apply to be a part of those space, we've put the link for the application in the description for you. So feel free to go click there. You'll be able to also read our core principles so that you're familiar with anything you need to know going into the space, and fill out a few questions, and then we will get back to you ASAP on what the status is moving forward. So thank you guys for listening all the way to the end. I know this was a lengthier Thursday episode, but we love being able to give these behind the scenes previews of the things that we are actively working on in our business. If this is the type of conversation you really like, we actually do month-end reports inside of our membership every single month. And so while today we went deep into a specific topic inside of Creative Maven Society, we do these end of month reports where we will talk about everything that happened inside of our business on the back end, complete with some stats so that you know what we were experimenting with, just different updates that happened, what we're noticing in the industry moving forward. Just it ranges from month to month, but it's always a really fun conversation. So if you like today's, you would also really like those. I think that's it. All right. Thank you guys for staying on to the end. We appreciate you and can't wait to be in your earbuds again next week. Okay. Bye.